Welcome back to the Normal Sports Show. We've got a special edition here today. We're kind of doing it live, Jason.
We are doing it live.
Jason Page, welcome to the show. We have worked together for many years now, and we're about to tell kind of the story of how we started working together and how Normal Sports started. But I'm curious, I know you saw the first episode that I taped where I couldn't do the intro. Do you have any ideas on what I should do for the intro?
Nope.
Probably not.
Probably not. I would cut it out. Do a lot of editing, maybe some quicker cuts. Just start.
We'll pass your notes along. Well, welcome to Texas, Jason. We've been here for 2 days now. You have come over from Amsterdam, which I think a lot of people don't even know that you live there. Often I tell friends, hey, you know, the guy that does all the amazing images and stuff for Normal Sport doesn't live in the United States. So we'll get to that part of your story also. But just what has this week been like? It's been, we've had a ton of fun. It's so hot. It's Ryder Cup time and it's so hot still. But yeah, just what has been your experience so far of Texas and of just coming back?
I'm not in Amsterdam anymore. That's sort of
What was your first clue?
The highways. Just big stuff, big everything. I grew up in Pennsylvania, so it's a bit of a different vibe than in Texas, but it just felt, I always forget how big stuff is and how far away everything is from each other. It's like I ride my bike everywhere, but here you need a car and you need highways, which is a little bit different.
Yeah, we've tried to shrink it a little bit. We still walk or bike with the kids to school. But yeah, everything else, it's driving.
You walk from the car.
Yeah, I walked from the car into this building. We're taping this at an undisclosed location to protect your identity. I wanted to get this down. We've put it on paper, I guess, kind of. But I wanted to record a sort of a timeline of how all of this started. I think it's fun for us. Hopefully it's interesting for other people. But I want to hear a little bit about your background. We're going to talk about how we met, why any of this started, how it all started, when it all started, and just kind of tell that story as we go throughout today. But first, Holderness and Bourne is our oldest partner and the business that has probably taken the biggest chance on us, which we're very grateful for. Their product speaks for itself. We're rocking some here today on the show. I recently told Holderness and Bourne that I want to put Norman, our little sheep that Jason designed, on everything that they make. We can't afford that quite yet, but our desire to go back to them for the merch that we sell in our store is a testament to the quality of their shirts, hoodies, quarter zips, and more. You can check them out at holdernessandbourne.com. Okay, Jason, I want people to hear from you because I think that a lot of times they associate Normal Sport with me and my work and my voice and all these things. But I think behind the scenes, it's so much more of a partnership and collaboration between me and you. Your images bring my text to life. You edit my text almost 100% of the time. And so I just want you to tell people what
it's like. No,
no, please don't tell them that. What your background in golf was, how you got into golf media. You're a credentialed media member for the Ryder Cup. By the time this comes out,
unbelievable.
The Ryder Cup will be over. The U.S. will have won big. But
fake news.
But how did you become a credentialed media member in the crooked golf media at the Ryder Cup?
I mean, I think a lot of first come thanks to you, like bringing me into the project Normal Sport world, which leads to kind of interesting things, one of them being media credential. But golf world, how did I get into the golf world? I started basically in design school, but also bouncing around within the design school in different departments like sculpture, social design, ended up kind of in communication, which is just visual arts. But within communication, there's a written aspect. So I was making books and publications. And then I always wanted to have the fun side, which is illustration. And I just so happened to gravitate towards illustrating something that I loved, which was golf, since I was like a little baby. So that felt like, for me, a very logical continuation of the education. And I presented a set of jumpsuits at a graduation show, which since 2014 have not seen the light of day. They're just sitting in my closet.
Jumpsuits.
Golf jumpsuits.
Okay.
Made of embroideries with golf. I basically took the language of golf. A lot of my illustrations start with language. I mean, like we were looking at your notes, it starts with a dumb idea on the page, and then it kind of takes its own path to become something visual. And that's exactly how the jumpsuits grew. So I was illustrating the jargon from the game, things that I thought were really interesting. So you got like birdie, duck hook, worm burner, just like the classics, you know, but also kind of illustrating them in a Greg Norman-esque type of shark logo. So they became things you could put onto garments. And then from there, I just made one big jumpsuit showpiece, which was going against a lot of the rules of collar length. It was sort of the maximum shortness of the pants that you could have, kind of just making fun of it basically, or just playing with it. But it was also more of like a communication piece. I wanted people to see it and not immediately see that it was golf related, but then kind of get curious to start talking about it, like, what the hell is going on with these jumpsuits? Which, funny enough, I think is also sort of how the illustrations that we're making now are working. So it's always been there, but that was my first sort of soiree into golf and illustration.
Put a bird on it.
Put a bird on it. Yeah, it was called Birdie. But naming process, I went through the whole...
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that, but it was going to be called Golf Time, and it ended up being Birdie, and now no one's ever seen it again.
What was your first job in golf media? So freelance
as a caddy?
No, in golf media.
Working for Shotgun Start.
Okay.
That was like the big one.
Yeah.
So I guess I was doing a bunch of free stuff for friends on the Refuge, or internet golf friends.
Which is No Layups message board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was in 2019. So I would follow along to the events that were popping up, and then I basically wanted to test my own chops to see what I could do. So I started illustrating like merch collections for events, some signage, and then I would just send it to them kind of as like a gift, but also just to also have fun, like doing stuff without anyone asking. You have all the freedom in the world to just play around, which is what I love. And that eventually turned into paid work, which eventually led me to the Shotgun Start, No Laying Up, Golf Blueprint, the list goes on, and now, to you as well. Small world.
I think you've basically been doing design for the entire kind of indie golf scene for the last 7 years, right?
More or less, yeah. It's there's a guy here in your office who wore one of my shirts today from No Laying Up. Like, I've never seen a lot of the things out in the wild, but I've got a lot of like fingers out there.
What does that feel like to see your work, somebody wearing your work?
It's pretty surreal. I saw it in St. Andrews for the first time, and that was like just mind blowing to see a hat that I designed in front of like the old course clubhouse. Just like, what a world. Yeah. It's still surreal. I can't wait to see Norman in the wild, actually.
How did you, yeah, for sure. How did you end up in Amsterdam?
How much time you got? I basically say at some point, like I have a bunch of points in my life where I just said yes to stuff, right? So I said yes to, I wanted to do an internship. I wrote an email. I got a yes. I met the guy, flew to Eindhoven in the Netherlands, discovered his studio, discovered the Design Academy Eindhoven, decided at that moment, like, yes, I'm going to study here. My dad was also
How old were you?
19.
Okay.
So my dad was also like, yeah, just stay. That's easy, you know, but...
which is crazy. I've got a 12-year-old, and I can't imagine saying that to her in 7 years.
Yeah, well.
Or 17 years.
See what happens when you do.
Yeah.
And then that was just one in a series of yeses that kind of led me to the Netherlands, and then, getting different opportunities and just sticking with it, kind of.
What's your favorite thing about living there?
My wife.
Besides
and my friends. I've basically grown up there. So I feel like I really became an adult there. So a lot of the things that I associate with my life now were the basis is sort of founded in Dutch culture. I like biking. I like how small it is. I like how direct people are. No BS, not a lot of like passive aggressive ways of communication, which you now know, I guess.
Well, totally. We joke about this, but the way you edit my writing and the newsletter and all this stuff is very and I mean this as a compliment, it's very much the way my wife would edit it, of like, she doesn't care if I'm annoyed or frustrated with her thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's how you edit, which is the best way to edit, because it produces the most artistic work. Like, your editing of my work is very much like, if I didn't know you and I read it for the first time, I'd be like, who does this guy think he is?
I still think that.
But because I trust you, I'm like, oh, well, I think he's probably right about this. Like, I was wrong. We need to go down this path.
It goes both ways. I think it's like, I feel the trust enough that I can also just say what I feel, and you can also say whatever you feel. And then if you don't agree, it's like I put a note in the draft documents, and if you run with it or not, it's either way is fine. You know,
Yeah.
that's also kind of the freedom of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to how Normal Sport started, because I wanted to make something that we could point people to when they're like, what is Normal Sport? I don't get it. Like, why? Like, what do you do? Why do you do it? What was the origin story? All that stuff. I think sometimes, even as we go out and talk to potential sponsors or talk to people that might subscribe, or there's all these different categories of people that we talk to, and we've never had anything to. You start telling the story, and then you're like 30 minutes in, and
you're like, now I'm confused.
This person doesn't want to talk to me anymore. So I wanted to be able to point people to something, and for us just to tell the story. So in my mind, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the idea of Normal Sport, which how do you tell people what Normal Sport means?
Well,
what do you tell people you do for a living, by the way?
I just say I'm a golf illustrator.
Yeah, okay.
Or I say I'm an illustrator, and then they say, what do you illustrate? And I say golf.
Yeah.
And then they say, like, what?
Why?
And I say, yeah, why does that exist? And I also say, yeah, there's not many of us, but we got a lot of energy. No, I don't know. It's just it's the subject material. It's like, but Normal Sport, I think people don't really know golf outside of a couple of stereotypes.
Yeah.
So I think if you're not really a sicko about it, maybe you don't really get the connotation of it, or you don't get the wink wink. But I think people can also sort of understand the absurdity of it. Just maybe even first looking at how people dress, or how they assume that people dress. Maybe that's already like, a bit strange.
I think that probably the first Normal Sport moment goes back to the 1600s, 1700s.
Yeah.
When some monarch started stuffing goose feathers in a pouch of leather and hitting it with a stick, and you're like, why did you think of that?
Well, there was a variation of golf that was invented in the Netherlands, also in the 16th century, where they would hit down these long streets. They would just hit a wooden ball through some hole or to a stick, and that was named Kolf, Kolf. But that was
really
the origins before the origins. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, now you know.
So
and they have an indoor version as well.
Did Scotland try to steal it?
I'm not saying it, but no, maybe, I don't know.
Who can say?
Who can say? Yeah.
So that was probably the first Normal Sport moment, but my first interaction with a Normal Sport moment, which what I tell people when they ask, like, what is Normal Sport? It's just the idea that I think golf has an unusual, all sports have this, and people are like, oh, well, golf's not the only, I know, like, I get what you're saying. I think golf has an unusually high amount of weird moments because it's played in the wild, essentially. You don't get, at an NBA game, you might get a Normal Sport moment, but you don't get giraffes running down fairways. You don't get, any guys taking their clothes off to get in a pond to hit, to play the shot. Like, that's pretty bizarre.
People standing on the edge of a cliff.
And our guy Speed,
our savior.
And I come to golf from kind of a non-traditional background in that I played baseball. And so when I came into golf, I started noticing these moments, and I was like, this is kind of weird. And everybody's just like, oh yeah, that's kind of how we do things. And you're like, really? So the first one that I remember was, I think it was the 2020 US Open at Wingfoot. And I remember Phil was in a bunker, and he had like one of his feet up on the side of the bunker, and he was choked down to the steel of the club. And he, half his body was in the camera, it was just, just a very typical like Phil thing and Spieth thing. And I'm just looking around like, this was like, this would never happen in football or whatever. And so that concept was sort of born from that. I remember, I think it was Terrell Hatton at a tournament later that year. He was like doing the split, it was like doing a yoga pose in a fairway, like trying to identify his ball that was like in this divot. Just there's a million of them every tournament.
Is that when you started calling it out to the world and really putting a name on it,
Yes.
or pointing out these moments?
So started tweeting about it, whatever. People were like, "Oh, it's dumb or funny or whatever." And it's almost like when you buy a car and you start noticing that everybody owns that car.
Yeah.
Like once I started doing it, I started noticing those moments everywhere, not just in golf, like in other areas of my life where you're like, that's actually, if you reframe that, that's very strange.
It's a weird world.
Yes, totally. Yeah. And so the origin of our business, though, to me, it goes back to the 2021 Ryder Cup. Do you remember, like, what were you doing then? Do you remember how we started interacting?
I had to check my phone to see I had to check the receipts a little bit to see where I was at that time. I was in Pennsylvania and New York for a wedding, and also to deliver a quilt that I had finished for someone's wedding, another wedding.
You had
handmade a quilt.
Sewn it?
I also make quilts. Yeah, I made it for a couple's wedding. It was a wedding gift that I got commissioned. So
how long does it take to make a quilt?
Too long. Too long. I think I stopped. I sort of haven't made a quilt since because that was such a labor of love. It was probably a year and a half. And it was also delayed from COVID. So the wedding itself was delayed, which is like not good for me because I will take as much time as I have. So it just kept getting more and more complex, which I really like because then it just, the quilt grows and grows.
Yeah.
But
literally.
Yeah.
It's just bigger and bigger.
I had to find this amazing quilt shop in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, which it has this amazing directory of like Amish and Mennonite quilters. And you basically take your unfinished quilt there, and then they'll open this big book and they'll sort of go through, start calling people. So I went there with this quilt, and they started calling people like, "Do you have time to quilt this quilt?" I was like, "Nope." Next one. "Do you have time to quilt this quilt?"
Wait, so you had designed it and they needed somebody to...
No, I made the top of the quilt.
Okay.
This is a quilt show now. I made the top of the quilt, and to make a quilt, you need a top and a bottom and a filling.
Okay.
But you also need to stitch all the pieces together.
So you needed somebody to stitch it.
I need someone to do the quilt stitching, which for me can also take like 6 months if I do it all by hand, which I do everything by hand. But this woman, she found someone who could quilt it, and I said, like, how long is it going to be? She's like, 2 days maybe. So that I got the quilt done the day before I flew back. But I was there making a quilt, visiting my parents at their lake house, drinking a beer in a big green egg koozie by the water. I checked. I think the picture is like 5 minutes after you sent the text message.
That's crazy.
So I think
time stamped it.
I saw the time of the photo and the time of the text, and
that's
they like
awesome.
match up. So that's where I was when I got the news, and I said yes.
Yeah, I remember the 2021 golf season was weird. It was the double season with COVID, and it ended basically it ended with the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits. And I remember that was, all these Ryder Cups are incredibly special. That one for me was amazing because that was the year that Rory cried, and I wrote this piece that I was very proud of about the European team, about how they essentially, like, the Europeans enjoy losing together more than winning alone.
Yeah.
And just how that's a very like human idea and concept. And talked to Rory for it, and I was like really proud of how it turned out. And so I remember thinking, I just sold, for people that don't know, I used to own and run a Oklahoma State website covering college football, college basketball, recruiting, whatever. And I had just sold that I think toward the end of 2020. So about a year later was the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits. And I'm the type of person that always has to have a side project, whether it's small, big, like I just have to have something that I'm just sort of toying around with. And so I messaged you. I've got the message right here. I said, "Hey, Jason," this was on WhatsApp. I said, "Hey, Jason, big fan of your SGS artwork. I have some ideas rolling around in my head about," which is
understatement,
foreshadowing, about writing a digital year-end book that encapsulates the golf year for posterity's sake. Was wondering if you had any experience in the digital book space for artwork on something like that. And you said, Hey, Kyle, great to hear from you. This is hilarious to look back on. A year-end golf book by you sounds like a home run. I can imagine illustrations fitting your work well. I do have experience with artwork and design/publishing digital books. I'd be happy to see how we could bring it to life. What did you have in mind? The what did you have in mind is probably a question I've joked that you regret now. It led to you bringing Dutch chocolate to my 4 children here in Dallas. But yeah, that's how Normal Sport started, was with that message right there.
So simple.
Do you remember that process of putting together the first Normal Sport book?
It was, I remember it being a wild ride because the deadline was so short.
So we started it basically right after the Ryder Cup, first week of October.
Something like that. And I think the deadline, we tried to get it finished in a month and a half.
By
beginning December?
Yeah.
I want to say December 6th, something like that. Yeah, and it was the kind of thing, don't do.
Do not recommend.
Yeah, lessons learned. But that was the kind of thing, I think it was easy because if you say yes, you know what it's going to be. You know it's going to be intense. You know it's going to be like a very focused time. And of course, the first tendency is to say well, the time doesn't fit, the whatever, all the practical stuff. But in that case, I was just sort of open to it.
Yeah.
Didn't think, I had a lot of other stuff. I remember I was making the Dustin Johnson I had a illustration about Dustin Johnson's backup clubs or something like that, which is like a garbage can filled with fishing poles and like an old Nike Sumo driver.
I have a poster of it.
I like that one, but I made that on a bus in the middle of the pandemic, traveling to a friend's exhibition in Denmark. Like, sure, yeah. It's also sort of a why not kind of moment, but that's what we had to do. And yeah, I was super proud of that. It came together. I mean, I was even looking at, I think from the first sort of concept sketches, we had a pretty clear vision. We didn't overthink it, which I really liked. And we just saw how we could bring it all together.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of it, we were both burned out, but happy.
Yeah. That's how I would describe it too. We were cooked, but we were both, I'm a big fan of the idea of you can just do things. And I think you are too.
Yeah.
And we just did this thing. And at the time I was working at CBS Sports and I asked them if I could do it. And they're like, yeah, of course, as long as it doesn't interfere with your work, and yeah, have at it. And I was over the moon. I was so excited because, it's a different style of writing and of presentation of golf than what you would expect at a CBS Sports or an ESPN.com or whatever. And it was something that I think you and I immediately just really enjoyed. And I think the surprise, I don't know if it was surprising, but I think we were maybe a little surprised at how much we enjoyed working together. A quilter that lives in Amsterdam and a
obviously
youth baseball coach that lives in Dallas. And it sold pretty well too. We sold, I think, I don't know, 2,200, 2,300 copies, something
cool.
like that.
Yeah.
And we were like, whoa, this is, you can just do stuff.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That's the best kind of stuff. I think the stuff you do without any expectations or sometimes without anyone asking for it is the good stuff, as they say.
Yeah, for sure. So 2022, so then the following year, we kept in touch throughout the year, and I was still working at CBS. What were you doing at the time? Were you...
I don't know. Wait,
you were freelancing.
I didn't check the photos. Yeah, I was teaching at that time. I was teaching illustration.
Okay. Where at?
Willem de Koning. It's an art school in Rotterdam.
Okay.
So I was teaching there, and I was still working on a bunch of no laying up stuff, Shotgun Start stuff. So staying busy, just hustling.
Yeah. So at the end of 2022, we decided to do the book again. I'd kind of waffled on it, and because it was a lot in 2021, and we kind of blew it out in terms of that was the biggest book that we did.
Yeah.
We printed we printed a hardback version that was really nice and expensive. Yeah, we've got it right here.
Yeah.
I remember we spent, I guess, because now it's technically
it was just you at that
all
at
rolled
that
into Normal Sport, but at the time it was just me. We spent $50,000 on that book.
Yeah.
And I remember my wife finding that out, and it wasn't it was one of those things where it wasn't a one-time, I spent $50,000 on this vacation. It was it kind of added up over time. And you had I had Shane Bacon read it, and I had these people do this. And
there were a bunch of people. I think that team that you put together for that was so much fun. Also, just the brainstorms we would have of taking everyone's text, seeing what illustrations we could pull out of it. That was a fun process. In general,
it was a fun process. My wife did not think it was that fun after she saw how much I spent. And the book is like,
it's cool.
What is it?
It's a lot.
430 pages.
It's a lot.
I mean, it's a big boy.
Yeah.
It was again super fun.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the theme for throughout. Like, we just loved doing the work, and it didn't sell as well. I didn't recoup all my $50,000, which was okay. Like, I was glad that it existed in the world, and I loved working. DJ Pyhowski worked on it. Joel Beal,
what an all-star crew.
Clara Roger, like so many. Porath did a chapter or two, I think. And yeah, it was a ton of fun. Is that how you remember it?
I think we took the energy that we had from Normal Sport 1, and that just carried into Normal Sport 2, which I think allowed us to just get way out over our skis, maybe for you financially, but also just like making a massive book with like maybe twice as many illustrations, twice as much text as the first edition, which I think is also a really cool challenge to do. Not just like, let's make another one, but let's make like a different one.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, exactly what we did. I'm super proud of that. Also the packaging and the tees and it was cool to make something that I think they felt we put a lot of care into it.
Yes.
And I think people, well, hopefully the 50 people that bought it
it was
had that feeling.
Yeah, it was more than that. I think it's the one that I'll probably look back on, not necessarily the most fondly, but the most proud. Like, I'll probably be the most proud of just the actual physical product that this is. Because printing books is way harder than it seems like it should be. Going into it, I was like, how hard can it be to print a book? How much does a banana cost? $10? How hard can it be to print a book? Turns out it's not that easy.
Extremely difficult. Yeah.
So we did that in 2022. I think the thing that I didn't realize, and hopefully this is an encouragement to anybody that's doing a project, is you don't understand in the moment how much you're learning.
Yeah.
And how much momentum you're gaining for something later on. And I didn't even know I was going to start, or that we were going to start Normal Sport as a business full time until way after we made this book. But I look back on that time of like, man, I was learning a lot that we are applying today to our newsletter, show, social, like all that stuff.
Yeah. I think it's impossible in any creative process to, in the moment, think about what you're going to get out of it, or consider what you're going to get out of it, or weigh what you're going to get and have a making process.
Yeah.
I think that's just impossible. And it's also not healthy for the making. And I think that's always the fun thing about the books that we made, but also about the weekly newsletters, is there's always this push, and you make and you make and you make, and then afterwards you kind of reflect.
Yeah.
And sometimes I look at this book and I'm surprised by what we came up with, and I see it in a different light every time I look at it. So it's they're two very different things, the making and the reflection.
I think that's an important point. That's how I think about being in college.
Yeah.
You know how like you were in college and you think back and you say, gosh, I wish I would have been able to appreciate it more. But I don't think you're able to appreciate something and live in the middle of something at the same time, in the same way that you do when you reflect on it.
I think if you looked at every situation as like, what am I going to get out of this, and how is it going to affect the rest of my life, and how is it going to affect my development, I think that's quite a boring way to live.
It would be kind of miserable, I think. And also I find it to be the struggle with running Normal Sport as a business versus a creative endeavor. Because I think the business part requires constant asking of those questions and reflection, and the artistic side doesn't. And I find it hard to sort of balance those two things.
They're sort of, I see them work, they're sort of running on parallel tracks. They're at the same time, but just at there's different moments for it.
Yeah.
They both need each other. But,
yeah. And holding them in tension has been hard. Okay. 2023, I started exploring the newsletter world. I remember we traded a lot of
what was the first forays into that?
Like who was I looking at?
Yeah.
Oh, I was looking at places like Morning Brew and like the big ones that you're like, oh, this is like a business. Like you've congregated. The Hustle was one. You've congregated millions of people and you make millions of dollars a year. This is crazy. I was annoyed. I was frustrated that the second book didn't sell very well because I felt like you and I had something to say, not to mention the people that participated in it. I felt like we had something to say on a weekly basis. So for whatever reason, I don't remember the tipping point for this, but I was somehow led into like, oh, maybe we just have a newsletter and we're trying to package it as a book.
Yeah.
Do you remember those conversations?
I remember the frustration with the book of that it wasn't received, or more received, I guess. And then you sort of feel like the work sits on a shelf and you want to get it in front of more eyeballs. And I think the vehicle for that, at least at that point, was the logical one, and still is putting it in a newsletter.
I remember I was in Phoenix at the Phoenix Open. I think it was that year, 2023. And I was talking to Rory about, I think about the book and all these ideas I had for other books. And I remember him looking at me. We were walking down the fairway and he just looked at me and he was like, do people still read books? And I was like, I mean, you and I do, you know, but I think it was that certainly wasn't the tipping point, but I think there was this idea of Ben Thompson, who writes Stratechery, which is a great tech newsletter. He's always been asked, like, when are you going to write a book? And he's like, I write a book every week.
Yeah.
Not like lengthwise, but well, he might, but just in the idea of I'm keeping a journal of what I'm learning and distributing it to people that are just sort of reading my learning journal. And that's in a lot of ways how I view normal sport. Like the newsletter is I'm keeping a journal of how I'm interpreting and internalizing the golf world. And here it is if you want to read it.
I think there's also, I feel in the illustrations, there's a very different energy to that of like, I'm going to, let's say, look into the future at the publishing date of the book, which is maybe 6 months in advance. So I'm going to work towards that.
Yeah.
Which leads you down a different path than if you say like, I want to make something today and I want to put it out today.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow or Thursday, the next day, in the next newsletter, I'll do it again. That's a very different energy. And I think that's what I've enjoyed about the making process, is that energy is sort of like captured in the work, and that work also builds up into some sort of publication or book on the website.
It can be chaotic at times, but that's part of
life is chaotic.
That's part of the fun. So 2023, we launched the Normal Sport newsletter actually while I was at the Phoenix Open. And I don't remember if I told CBS Sports that I was doing this. I had asked about the one book and just...
Better to ask for forgiveness than permission kind of thing?
Never asked again. I remember we did a lot of dreaming that year, talked a lot about what kind of business we could build together. Because I think by that point, we were really enamored with the idea of building a business together. I don't know that we were totally committed to it, but we were enamored by it, or of it, however you say that. What was that year like for you in terms of, you had to be asking the question, do we have a business, or do I need to keep doing contract work? Like, what was that like?
I mean, I at that moment I was still doing contract work because I like doing contract work and I like having variety, and also those relationships that I built up, they were great relationships and great partnerships that I like doing. But I was also intrigued by the idea of building a business because it becomes like your little world to make things within. And if you can create that world, I find that very, very exciting. It's not someone else's commission. It's not someone else's dream. It's like, it's your dream.
You can just do things.
Yeah. You just do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was very inspiring. Still is.
That fall, so at the end of 2023, so that was the Rome Ryder Cup. I kind of half-heartedly tried to leave CBS. I don't think I've like talked about that publicly before. Yeah. And ended up not leaving. And I'm glad for that, because I don't think we were totally ready to start the business then. We did a third book, Normal Sport 3. That one did worse than the first two.
But the printing was cheaper. The page number was cheap, like smaller.
It feels like the market was trying to tell us, like, don't keep doing this.
And we're making more books. Yeah.
So yeah, I think at that point, at the end of 2023, after Rome, and after we did that book, it became easy for me, at least, to see that we weren't creating a book business. We were creating something, a different kind of business, which I'm still I think sometimes we still struggle to know what that business is, but
Yeah.
it was clear that it wasn't like we're not going to write and publish books every year.
But how do you define it now if people ask? What's a snappy definition?
Well, do you want my vision for it or like what it is currently?
The vision that you sell to people.
So currently it's a media business.
Yeah.
So online content, which is everybody knows what that is. My vision for it, the way that I view it is, I think this could change, a product business. And what I mean by that is I think we have a vision for creating products for people around golf that engender relationship. So an example of that, we have been working on a kid's book that I envision bringing moms and sons, dads and daughters closer together because the dad gets to read it to his daughter or the mom gets to read it to her son. And I think that is sort of my end like dream or vision for Normal Sport. Sure, like the newsletter's fun and funny. Doing this show is a ton of fun for me and especially doing it with you. Yeah. But I think my like desire and my dream is to create a business that engenders relationship among people. Because if you don't have that, then why are you even doing any of this?
Yeah. I think when I try to summarize it, it becomes more of like it's a publishing company.
Yeah.
And then products and projects are also part of that publishing, which
I mean, there's so many different ways you could define it. Like I was talking to Andy of the Fried Egg at the Masters earlier this year, and he was like, you need to understand that you're running a community business. And I think that's partially true. Like I don't know that it's necessarily like one type of business that we're running. I think it's probably all of those in some.
I think the Fried Egg is a great example of like the company grows also with their interests and fascinations, and they bring on people to support that dream with all of their different skill sets. And I think they're like an amazing example of that, how it can grow and how it can work and adapt. And
yeah, I totally agree. So 2024, that was the year that the newsletter really started, like we started to find the rhythm for the newsletter. We had done it throughout 2023, published another book. It was fine. 2024 was like, oh, this is like a real thing. And that coincided with my final year at CBS. And October 1 of 2024 was when we started doing this full time. And that was terrifying, fun, all of the above. So yeah, do you remember like when I left and when we launched and all that stuff?
I remember it was a cool moment because it was just like, okay, we're going to jump, or you're going to jump and then we're going to jump with you. And that was really clear. There wasn't really any doubt about it, which I think is kind of the only way that you can really make a decision like that.
And I think we both knew that.
Yeah, it was inevitable.
Yeah, but it was hard to get there.
Yeah,
as it always is.
Yeah, but I think the way that it worked out kind of was like a blessing in disguise. The way,
yes,
I mean,
the timing was
perfect,
tremendous.
Yeah,
I think one of the reasons we started the business, or we started all of this for a bunch of reasons. I think one of the things that I've seen in the digital media space is that it has become, you don't know if the ads are serving the content or the content is serving the ads. Like it's so cluttered. It's such a mess across the board. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to build something that was beautiful and artistic and that really stirred people's emotions as well. And hopefully
and it was fun.
It was fun.
That's also, I think, entertaining is like, there's a lot of fun in entertaining. And I think with text and with illustration, it's a perfect match for just telling captivating and oftentimes fun and ridiculous stories. That's like the medium right there. So
yeah, I mean, our vision. So I'm going to read you two things. I'm going to read you our vision and our mission. Obviously, you've read these.
Nope, never read them.
And so, it would be problematic.
It's first time for me too.
We're having, by the way, maybe I mentioned this, but we're having basically our annual meetings here in Dallas for 3 days, essentially the week before the Ryder Cup. And it's been a ton of fun just to talk about where we've been, where we're at, where we're going. And obviously the vision and mission are part of that. Our vision has become the most unique publisher of written and illustrated golf content in the world. It's better to be different than it is to be better.
Yeah.
So that's our goal. I think our trajectory for that is good.
So far, so good, I think. Yeah.
And then our
Still working on it.
Yeah. And then our mission, this is what I think about a ton. And this is why I say maybe I think we're a product company, but our mission is to use humor and heart to make the daily fan's personal experience of golf feel more meaningful. And the word that really sticks out in that to me is meaningful. Like, I want to bring about meaning in people's lives through the game of golf. In my Twitter bio, I say I use golf to write about life. And I'm hopeful that is people's experience of our newsletter, of this show even, and potentially even of some products that we make later on.
I think so. That's how I see my illustrations working as well. I think the game itself, there are so many ways of making it more meaningful, and I think one way is to just have fun with it and kind of turn it on its head, so people also look at the game in a bit of a different way. So I think that's the text functions in the same way, that it makes you also consider things differently or think deeper about some things.
What do you find is the thing that pushes back the most against that? The thing that you struggle with the most in terms of like, I want to create meaning in people's lives, but this thing is like pushing me back from it or keeping me from it?
I think one of the main things is thinking that this thing is like going to be really meaningful. I think if I really set out to do that, it's like, I'm going to say something profound now. It's probably not going to be that profound. It's just like, you got to follow intuition.
Yes.
And just, I think if I find something funny enough or let's say like goofy enough or interesting enough, or there's some sort of nugget there that I want to explore it deeper in illustration, I can also trust that readers are probably going to be interested as well. So it's just like following intuition and not setting out to make some big grandiose thing. Just take little baby steps.
Well, and I think it's a great point, because we have trusted our taste. For whatever reason, our taste together has seemingly worked.
I think it works, yeah.
I don't think about that for too long and try to figure out why. I just trust that it has worked.
Yeah. Just doing stuff.
You do stuff.
Can I just add something as well? I think we've been talking a lot about just like the work. We take the work seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously. And I think that's the perfect recipe for hopefully making something that resonates. So
Yes.
it's just text and illustration, and that's enough, I think.
Yeah.
For now, until we have a product line.
I think when you follow your nose and you trust your taste, you trust that people are going to come with you. But even if they don't, and they're not going to every time, you're still having fun. And you can't build a business on like, we're having fun, right? Like, that's not a very adult way of looking at a business. But I think that if people will follow you down enough is it rabbit trail or rabbit hole?
Rabbit traps? No, I don't know. Rabbit holes? Yeah, rabbit holes. Yeah.
Then you do have a business. A business is just something that improves other people's lives, right? And that's what we, I think, try to do with our content, is like make people laugh, make them see some meaning or some beauty or some wonder where they didn't before. And again, even if they don't every time, and they're not going to every time, like we're still enjoying it. I think one of the things that is easy for me to get sidetracked on is pursuing shiny objects, pursuing this. So looking at, it's been one of the hardest things about being an entrepreneur and leaving my job. I didn't think it would take as much discipline as it has to just write the newsletter and make the show.
And what about that do you find difficult in terms of discipline?
I want to do like 50 things.
Yeah.
I want to do a collaboration with this company, and I want to pursue this thing over here and fly over here and do this, whatever, you know? And that is the quickest way to burn out and to lose what you have.
I think we've done a pretty good job of also staying, one of our goals is like staying nimble, staying flexible. And I think one of the big parts of that is really considering like different steps that you take within the business, but within the creative work as well. So I think this show was also something that was on your mind for really years. Years maybe. Yeah. And I think when we were all ready to like sort of add it to the repertoire, then we could go for it, but we really considered it. And thought, is that something that's going to be additive and also sort of part of the bigger mission.
Yeah. I was talking to a buddy and he was like, I can't believe you haven't started a podcast yet.
Yeah.
He was like, I would have done that and 50 other things on day one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that was
it's a marathon.
That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like deep down was start 50 things and try to like take over the world. And thankfully I had enough discipline or foresight to pull back from that. And I still struggle with it. You and I, if people saw like our internal spreadsheet of ideas and thoughts and all this stuff, they would institutionalize us, first of all.
It's bad.
And we just struggle with like, I think we both see the world as like, it's completely filled with wonder and opportunity and all these things. And we struggle to not like want it all. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah. I think it's also, maybe we should publish the ideas, just make a big book of ideas and then at least get them out of our head a little bit. It's not a bad idea. Another book.
Very meta.
Yeah. I forgot your question. I think it's mostly about just choosing, like having all these ideas, but then sort of trusting yourself that you can really dedicate it to this one idea, or just like trust that whatever you're working on, whatever's on your table, that's like enough. And I think for me, that's also, I find it difficult with the business and creative side sometimes, where it's like, business and creative sort of intermingle the whole day, and then I'm kind of like switching gears. But I think the best days for me are like when I just have a block of time and I can just sit with a few illustrations and then just get lost in the work, and then of course do the business stuff and really like have that as dedicated time later. But I think that's like the key there, is just giving yourself the freedom to like dig into whatever's on your desk.
Getting lost in the work is my favorite part of the job. Like I will literally forget how much time has elapsed, and that is invaluable. I would pay so much money for that to be my job, and somehow it is.
Yeah.
And I try not to take that for granted. It is I say this often internally, but I think you and I have found the work of our lives, and we're just trying to take it, one newsletter at a time.
But I think, I just pulled up some ideas from the first
Oh
sport.
gosh.
I think the great thing is also just like, also not judging the ideas as they come, because later you might look back on them and think like, this is gold. All right, read one. Bryson's shaved arm. Okay, that was an illustration. Bryson hat silhouette exhibit style. Yo, dog, I hear you like hats, so we put you with a hat on your hat so you can wear a hat with you wearing a hat. Perfect. Sergio and lifted truck, big texts for Texas.
Very good idea.
Amazing.
Still,
I'm happy these exist. That's kind of the thing with ideas.
Yeah. Okay, last thing. Can you tell the story of the logo real quick? Because I think people get a little bit confused. They're like, it's kind of cool, but it's kind of weird. Like, what's going on? What is it?
Well, it was sort of the end. I would say it was like the exclamation mark on a very long and convoluted process.
That's all of our stuff.
Yeah, it's basically everything. Which naming stuff is hard. Anyway, it's hard. It's frustrating. No one likes it. Every name you come up with, you're
Cliques,
like,
fireballs.
It's like, this sucks, and everyone knows that it sucks, but I have to have something. So we went through, I think, like 20 iterations of like Great Line, Sandbox. I got folders full of these design documents.
I can't even hear them out loud.
It's horrible. And then we were both feeling like this. I've got logos upon logos upon logos of process, but we were both like, this kind of stinks. It's not really there. Why would we even change why would we change normal sport name into Sandbox or some other random thing that we thought was ironic or cool? And we had one of our weekly calls, and we were just kind of like joking around afterwards about sheeps looking off at weird golfers back in the day, kind of like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And also something about the male chip monkey popped up.
No, well, it was the monkey the GIF.
Oh yeah, the monkey. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The side-eye monkey.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why don't we just? I don't know why I even said this. I had been. I don't know. I truly don't know. But I said, why don't we just mash those together?
Yeah.
And we ended up
sheep with the side-eye monkey.
With the side-eye sheep.
Yeah. And the hat came from, I think David was saying, he was just at a Hickory tournament. He's like, yeah, you got to put one like old school hat.
A bowler's hat.
A bowler's hat on him. So I was like, all right. And I sketched it up during the meeting, and I sent it. it was kind of one of those things like good things happen right before you go to bed. Like I just gotta get this down. And I made a little sketch of it and sent it to the group. And then everyone was like, that's it.
Yeah. And the idea is basically that these sheep were just minding their own business in their fields in the 1600s.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there's these people with sticks and goose feathers to tie it back to the beginning. And they're like, well, what are these guys, what are these people doing? And they're like, this is, you know, like, so they're side-eyeing the people that are starting to play golf in their fields. That's the norm. That's like, again, the first normal sport moment. And we try to capture it with the side-eye sheep logo.
And now Norman is sort of watching over us, thinking the same thing. Like, what the hell is
Yeah,
going on
What
here?
are these guys doing?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's great. Okay. That's all I got. You got anything else?
That's it. That was fun.
Yeah, it was a ton of
It's
fun.
my first podcast.
No, you were on New Club.
Oh, it's on New Club. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kevin.
You were awesome
Matt.
on there.
Yeah.
Everybody should go listen to Jason on New Club. I love doing this. It's always fun. It's funny. We have, I don't know, a meeting once every 2 weeks or so. And I always leave those meetings so energized, so excited, just for the work and for working with you and for the business. So it's fun to get to do this in person. This is only the second time we've ever met.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
I've only met Brendan. That was
Brendan
and St. Andrews. I met you
at St. Andrews.
That was the first time, and then a couple other guys here and there. But yeah, it's internet golf friends.
You'll meet everybody at
I will.
the
Yeah, I
Ryder
can't
Cup.
wait.
By the time people hear this, you will have met everybody. So, Jason, thank you for doing this.
Yep.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for putting up with my insanity. It is truly. I told my wife this, but I would not want to do this job without you. That's how meaningful it's been to have to partner in doing this work. And we're not the only ones. We've got Jeff and David who are part of the team as well. But in terms of the creative work, it's mostly you and I. And it's been a total blast. So I hope that people feel that in the work that we do, and I hope that that our story, the Normal Sports story and the logo and everything else, makes at least a little bit more sense now that we've kind of laid it all out there. So Jason, thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.